warm welcome. You're watching the biggest exclusive tonight with me, Akanksha Swaroop. And tonight, let's raise some big questions now. Are our Netas guilty of tokenism when it comes to Dalits or even minorities? Are these minorities or Dalits just used as vote banks for political parties at election time or in the run-up to elections? Now, you may ask, why am I raising these questions? The answer is, the state of Karnataka is all set for assembly election in 2023, and perhaps that's what explains why the leader of opposition, Siddaramaiah, thought doling out cash worth 2 lakh rupees will compensate those 4 people injured during the violence in Kerur earlier this month. A Muslim woman who happens to be a family member of one of those injured hurled the money back at the former Chief Minister of Karnataka. She was visibly angry and said that she doesn't want the money and that these politicians only visit when they need to. Clearly, money cannot replace empathy. And that's what we are going to now talk about. What exactly happened during those moments? What led to that angry action by that Muslim woman? First, of course, up is Siddaramaiah meeting those who were injured in those communal clashes. Remember, those communal clashes happened on 6th and 7th of July. The situation was very, very tense in Kerur. Having said that, he also met the kith and kin of those family members. Now, the other visual is of that angry Muslim woman who was offered the money, and the other family members along with her refused to accept the money that was being offered by Siddaramaiah. Their anger is that nobody came to meet them when they were expected to. Siddaramaiah offering that money to that Muslim lady who visibly looks very angry. And the last thing she did as an expression of her anger was to hurl that money back at Siddaramaiah as his car moved on. That's the wad of cash worth 2 lakh rupees. That's the anger hurled back in the form of 2 lakh rupees. And that's the big question that we are posing to you now. Sidhu Cash, self-goal, will Netas learn their lesson or not? And this is the question we'll be asking our guests as well. But we'd like to bring you a report from Ground Zero first.
ವಾಪಸ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ, ಇದು ಮಾನವೀಯತೆಯಿಂದ ಕೊಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಅದು ನಾವು ಅವರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
Before I introduce my panelists to the dais today, let me also pose the question to our viewers. Call us and share your views. The question is, can Netas replace empathy with cash? Share your views with us on 0120-434-1895 as we open our lines to the callers. And with that, let me also introduce our guests. I'm joined in by Aishwarya Mahadev, who is the Congress spokesperson, Mohan Vishwa, who is the BJP spokesperson, and Professor Chandan Gowda, who is a political analyst and professor of the ISEC Institute for Social and Economic Change. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining this discussion today. Aishwarya Mahadev, if I could begin with you. Currently, the leader of opposition, also the former chief minister of the state, he's been snubbed on camera for doling out cash worth 2 lakh rupees. What was Mr. Siddaramaiah thinking?
Good evening, Akansha. I think before this incident, the one thing that's very important to be spoken about is the context of what has happened. And I think this action, or rather this unrest, is symptomatic of the larger problem in Karnataka of communalism. Because if you look at it, this was the outburst after the Kerur violence. Mr. Siddaramaiah himself has clarified that this money was just mere compensation. It does not make up for the loss. It does not make up for the injury in any manner or such. And this way of showcasing a tiny portion of what has happened is also very problematic, to be very honest, Akanksha. The idea was that there was communal tension, there was communal violence. The lady who threw the money back said she wanted peace and security. And then on his part, legislator, he has spoken to the DC, he has spoken to the ministers, he has spoken to absolutely everybody to ensure that speedy and adequate justice is provided.
Aishwarya, we will talk about that communal clash as well. We will also discuss the role and the responsibility of the state government. But I'm going to ask you, what kind of compensation are we talking about? Hard cash?
It is about the fact that, again, from an MLA's fund or from the government, or if you're an elected representative, there is money that can be allocated for compensation in terms of any sort of medical injury. This happens a lot of time, or even medical treatment costs are borne by an MLA through his funds. And this idea of hard cash being given
but you don't agree that the manner in which it was just hurled at the woman at the point when she was leaving, this perhaps could have been done in a more formal sort of manner, perhaps in the form of checks. If it is a compensation, sort of a formal compensation coming in, why not use checks?
You know, you talk about the formality of it, but where we come from in the rural back of beyond, it is cash that is obviously more convenient, especially for women whose breadwinners are now in the hospital and their access to formal finance. But besides that point, it was not anything that was hurled at anybody. Mr. Siddaramaiah stood there, held the lady's hand, said, "I'm very sorry for what has happened," after having visited the hospital, and gave her that money. This idea of him being arrogant and whatnot, her
No. We are not calling him arrogant, but what it certainly has come across as tokenism. I'm going to also bring in Mr. Mohan Vishwa. Mr. Mohan Vishwa, how do you view what's happened in Bagalkot today? Many are viewing this as tokenism. What is it if it's not tokenism?
See, Akanksha, it's a tight slap on the appeasement politics made by Mr. Siddaramaiah and Congress in the state of Karnataka, or rather throughout India. Mr. Siddaramaiah, why did he went to Bagalkot district to visit his constituency, Badami, like his boss, Rahul Gandhi, who often visits or very, rarely visits Wayanad? Mr. Siddaramaiah also visits his constituency. That too, he visited just by looking at those communal angles. He never wanted to visit for the sake of development. Just because there was one religion which was under trouble, to take that mileage or to take an vote bank of that, he just visited there. It's not that to solve the problem. So that was very clearly. And I heard that Aishwarya was telling that, it's a rural area where the cash will be given.
No, then what is the problem? Aishwarya, what do you think perhaps angered the woman?
Let me finish.
All right, Mohan Vishwa, go on. Let Mohan finish.
Yeah, Akanksha, I want to finish. I want to give you one more example. Mr. Siddaramaiah's colleague Jamir Ahmad Khan, who is in Bangalore, urban, who represents Chamrajpet constituency, where he has access to all banking facilities, carries 500 rupees notes, 2000 rupees notes in his pocket, and openly he distributes to his voters on the street. So those videos are also available. Come on, what kind of statement she is making here? She can't say that, just there was no banking facility has given the cash. So she should accept the fact that it's a tight slap on the appeasement politics made by Congress. It's a Siddaramaiah, that too.
Aishwarya, let me now bring in Aishwarya on that. Aishwarya, many are already asking, they are bound to ask, considering Karnataka is all headed for assembly election, is this not a move to prepare their own vote bank?
Akanksha, this is the disease of which this action is symptomatic. When you talk about humanity or an action where somebody is a victim, Mohan Vishwa's first word that comes out of his mouth is appeasement, where if you're trying to help victims also, you look at it from the prism of religion. And the second thing is Mohan Vishwa, obviously, if somebody's handing out 500 rupee notes or whatnot, and mind you, the Bellari brothers and what happened to them is very evident. And you're in government, if you really had that much of a problem, please take action. Nobody has any issue against it. If you make these accusations on national television, will not just fly. Put your money where your mouth is when you're making statements like this. But Akanksha, this is the problem. somebody has been beaten up, irrespective of caste, creed, and religion. The manner in which the BJP turns it into a communal ploy and play is what is disgusting, despicable, and dehumanizing. And that is the problem in society today. He should have said, okay, the victims had problems, whatnot. He says, oh, appeasement politics has failed and whatnot. This is why Karnataka has headed the way that they have. They have no development agenda. So they're obviously hitting the communal angle, emotive communal issues. Look at which of the BJP affiliates were involved in this Kerur violence.
Mohan, I'm going to let you speak. Aishwarya, we are running short of time. You've said what you wanted to. I'll also bring in what the woman had to say. It's very important to highlight what she had to say. The woman was actually heard saying that she doesn't want money. Instead, she wants justice, and that those miscreants who created that communal clash in Kerur should be punished. The family of the injured people are lamenting how nobody came to meet them earlier. Can money be used to replace empathy? I'm going to take that question from Professor Gowda, who's been very patiently waiting his turn. Professor Gowda, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think in all objectivity, we need all facts on the table. The disturbance or the clashes happened about a week ago between let's broadly call Hindu groups and Muslim groups. Since then, you've had Sri Ramalu and Yatnal visit there. BJP leaders have gone and met the Hindu victims, but the Congress local activists hadn't shown up there. That's part of the anger behind this woman's response. So we need to understand the context between why she was so angry about Siddaramaiah's gesture, which otherwise wouldn't have been reciprocated that way. Secondly, Siddaramaiah, again for the record, from what I know, visited both parties. He's even given 50,000 to one of the Hindu victims of the violence. The other Hindu victim refused to meet him, so he did not meet him. So this is not really, in that sense, appeasement of just one group. He's tried to meet both groups, and we need to have all facts on the table now. The second thing is what the woman was saying. If you heard her speak, and I've heard her speak on your channel in the afternoon, she was saying, I want justice, which means, the people who have been hurt were nowhere involved in the clashes. Why were their shops attacked? And this is a very serious complaint. And it says the police have not been impartial. The police have not protected our property. And that's the cry we need to also listen to very carefully, because police protection is not a party issue. Police have to protect everyone, regardless of who is in power. So this is something we'll need to absolutely be concerned about expect.
Fair enough, Professor Gowda. I'm going to request you to stay with us with that thought. Yes. Hold on to that thought, because as we know, this is also a call-in show. I have some callers waiting patiently for their turn. I have Amit with me from Bengaluru. Please go ahead and share your views with us. Do you think money can replace empathy?
Hello.
Right, go ahead.
Hello. You see, the worst fact is Siddaramaiah is Hindu hater. And only he has gone to Muslim patient and gone. Why not Hindu patient? There were several people who were hurt.
Anuj, we are learning that he met both the parties. It was not just the Muslim victims over there, but he also met the Hindu victims. That's something that's also being clarified on the show right now.
I must tell you this, because I am a Bengalurian. I am seeing him for several years.
All right, but do you think that compensating the victims with money or offering them money is enough as far?
It is. He has one important point which your channel has missed is, he has said it is my personal money, not company Congress money. That you should emphasize.
All right. I'm also joined in by Siddharth from Bengaluru itself. Siddharth, please go ahead and share your views with us.
A very good evening to all the panelists over there, and good evening to you. See, my observation, because I watch all the political events, recent development very closely. Now, the time is not correct, and the way it has been offered is not correct to my observation. See, I tell you, because I casted my vote. I had done a startup company. I casted my vote. There is a internal fight, which is, if the Congress spokesperson can correct me on that. There is an internal fight is already going between Siddaramaiah ji and DK Shivakumar ji. It is out there in all the Kannada news channel. Having said that, number two, here in BJP also, it's a similarity between Deep Blue Sea and Devil's Fish. I'm sorry to say this word, because BJP MLAs are partying. The entire Karnataka is flooded, and the BJP MLAs are partying out in Goa. That videos are live on all the Kannada channels. So I am not here to defend the BJP or defend the Congress. It's a similarity between Deep Blue Sea, devil's fish. We as a citizen of this country are taken for a task. Our taxpayer money are getting. On the other way, it is getting exhausted, partying in, somewhere, partying in Goa or partying in Jammu or somewhere else. I'm sorry to use this kind of harsh words, but I'm really, really, really disappointed the way it has been, conducted. It is not the way it should be conducted. It has to be where there is a transparent way that it can be conducted. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking to us. I'm also joined in by a third caller. If I could have the third caller. I'm sorry I didn't. Okay, I'm joined in by Mr. Ramamurthy from Pune. Mr. Ramamurthy, please go ahead and share your views with us.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. I really compliment that woman's action by throwing the money on his face, Siddaramaiah's face. She should have thrown, along with the money, even cow dung on his face. He thought probably he can buy anything and anyone with money. That's it. I really compliment, and this should be the action by everybody.
All right. Thank you for speaking to us. I'm also joined in by Murli from Pune. Murli, if you could go ahead and share your views with us. How do you view Siddaramaiah's action today in Bagalkot? Do you think this was just mere tokenism, or he was just trying to be genuinely generous and helpful?
Of course, it is tokenism. There's no doubt about it. And that's why the optics are there. But if he genuinely wanted to help the victim, and he should have listened to her more carefully when she's clearly saying that she needs legal aid, she needs other kind of support, what she's expecting. What was the point in handing out a 2 lakh rupee dole like that? It really looks very vulgar. And madam from that Congress party, she was saying 2 lakh rupees have to be given in cash. That is not the case, madam. You can always deposit it in a bank, and you can there are better ways to, give an aid. And when the lady, you're not willing to understand her pain, it just doesn't make sense. So I don't think it is the right way to go about things. Definitely it is tokenism, no doubt about it.
All right, my next caller is Niranjan, who's also joining us from Pune. Niranjan, all right, Niranjan's joining us from Bengaluru. I'm sorry, Niranjan, please go ahead and share your views with us.
Madam, the politicians are missing, they're lost a connect with the people. They're not able to listen, or media is not able to place what the people are facing the problem in business or real life. They just want to solve at that point. They are not addressing the issues what people are facing, and what is the problems each and individual from the business to the other class of people they are facing. That should be addressed, I think so. Instead of concentrating.
Thank you, Niranjan. I'm also joined in by another caller from Bengaluru. Sudhi Suresh is joining us. Mr. Suresh, please go ahead.
Good evening, madam.
Good evening.
Yeah, this is actually appreciable by that lady what she has done to the Siddaramaiah. These politicians are tearing their eyes only when they need of them. Otherwise, they won't see at all. Instead of doing certain help from the legal cell, but they are enacting like showing their face to get mercy upon them. So therefore, I support that lady, and this should not happen. This kind of things, what these politicians are doing, is a lesson to all political party members. What they are doing, this kind of everywhere, whenever there is a murder, there is a riot, or there is something happened to the minority and all. So therefore, this is a lesson to all the politicians, either any party of that. They are acting like tearing their eyes to gain their mercy. So it is not possible because of the victims are so badly affected by that. So therefore, politicians should learn some lesson from this thing.
Right. Thank you for speaking to us, Mr. Suresh. On that note, I'd like to take a question from Mohan Vishwa. Mohan Vishwa, let's not just make this about the Congress in Karnataka. Fingers are also being raised at the Bommai government in Karnataka. Many are questioning the rise in communal hatred in Karnataka. Also, something that happened in Kerur was, of course, a communal clash. What has the Bommai government done for these people who were injured in this clash on July 7th?
See, Akanksha, one thing should be noted is, in fact, I myself wanted to discuss about this or say my views on the justice which is asked by the lady. when Mr. Siddaramaiah's government was there, when the Congress was ruling between 2013 to 2018, he was the one who withdrew more than 150 cases of SDPI and PFI workers who were regularly involved in communal violences and communal murder. So they were the one who were responsible. So our government, if you see, in our government also, the shameless, the bankrupt Congress is polarizing and, the tokenizing one religion and, they're portraying against another religion. So that's why these strikes are happening.
But Mohan Vishwa, you've not answered my question. No, Mohan Vishwa, you have to answer my question. What has the government done to help these people who were injured? There are 4 people who were injured during those communal clashes. What has your government done to help them?
Say, definitely you take an example of Mr. Harsha, who got killed by Islamic terrorists of SDPI in Shimoga. Our government has paid more than 50 lakh compensation to him. I agree that money cannot replace, the person who has died. But as far as other things are concerned,
the lady wants those miscreants punished. She's clearly said it on camera that she wants justice. Who's supposed to bring justice to the lady? Not the opposition alone.
It's our government. It's our responsibility.
Exactly.
It's our responsibility to bring the justice. We are done in the past also. We are going to do it in this case also. In the future also, we are going to do it, irrespective of any religion for that matter. But the same shameless Congress government during their tenure, instead of giving justice to them, they withdraw the cases against the culprit. So who is responsible for that? So BJP government in the state is taking absolutely.
All right, Aishwarya Mahadev would like to come in on that. Aishwarya, please go ahead and share your thoughts right now. Do you agree with those accusations?
Akanksha, you're a very responsible news channel and I want you to look into it and also put out these articles that Mr. Mohan Vishwa is blatantly lying on national television. When they talk about withdrawal about cases, you do realize there were cases procedurally where people could not pay bail that they released it. The BJP, whether it comes to the death of Hindu karyakartas or even withdrawal of cases, the BJP likes to pull this propaganda. And if you have such a problem with the SDPI and the PFI, we have said ban them, but the BJP government gains by this sort of polarizing us versus them. And for the same example, the number of Bajrang Dal activists and the people who actually had serious cases against them, when Mr. Yediyurappa came to power, he dropped cases against them. So Mr. Mohan Vishwa, do not wax eloquent about my government, because if you look at us financially and socially and also social welfare wise, my state when was ruled by Mr. Siddaramaiah and the Congress was not mired with 40% corruption. It did not have my own karyakartas committing suicide. It is absolutely shameful the manner in which you're running the government today. That is why everything to you is communal. Your BJP ministers came and met only the Hindu victims and not anybody else. And what compensation have you offered? Please tell us. And today you talk about, this person who was beheaded, you realize that the person who beheaded him also was a BJP karyakarta. You have no agenda, so you are polarizing and communalizing because those are the only dividends you can yield, because in your head, the only ideal that you all go on
Aishwarya,
is us
I'm
versus
sure
them.
Mohan Vishwa would like to give a rebuttal to that. Mohan Vishwa, please go ahead.
See,
But ask him to stop
Akanksha,
lying.
I can give hundreds of examples. Mr. DYSP, the sitting DYSP of Madikeri district committing suicide, openly making a live allegation against then Home Minister Mr. George. And Mr. D.K. Ravi also got committed suicide. Come on, what the statement she is making? There are officers who bluntly committed suicide in their own government. So what Justice Congress have done, what Justice Siddaramaiah have done during his tenure? So she can't, blindly lie on a national television like this. I can give you hundreds of examples of communal clashes because of Siddaramaiah or Congress appeasement politics.
Disgusting. What a liar, Akanksha. Each of these cases, you have seen a resolution of it. Mr. George resigned and came back only when he was absolved of any sort of blame.
Aishwarya, hold on to your thoughts. Mohan Vishwa, hold on to your thoughts. Let's also give Professor Gowda a chance to speak. Professor Gowda, as a neutral party on the show right now, I'd like you to comment on those junkets in the name of study tours. Within a span of just 1 month, we have seen so-called study tours in Leh, Ladakh, Gujarat, Delhi, and today we can see these MLAs holidaying in Goa as well. What is one to make of such brazen, shameless behavior at a time when the state of Karnataka has been inundated?
It's an important question. I mean, I don't know quite what to say because the chair and one of the members of the committees, the assurances committee that went to Leh, Ladakh, was actually from Udupi, which was the worst hit of among all districts. So admittedly, of course, the rains began the day they were leaving, but I suppose they should have called it off because an MLA, in the way things are set up in this country, an MLA continues to be the focal point of all major decisions in the constituency. So I think they should have stayed back and cut short the visit. Yes, I mean, these are questions that, these controversies are important for us to discuss because we need to mend our ways and proceed. I mean, these are things that have to be called out, and thanks to channels like this that are being called out, we need to bring it to the public's attention. You cannot
Mohan Mishra, I think you also have some answering to do over here, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
See,
Mohan Mishra.
Akanksha, regarding the Leh Ladakh trip, or rather the Gujarat or the Delhi study tour of MLAs and MLAs from the state of Karnataka, probably we have already discussed at least 7 to 8 times in your news channel. We have given the clarification also, and the MLS are back and they are on their work.
Right, but it's not ending. Today itself we see footage of those MLAs holidaying in Goa, using a resort. They are all in a swimming pool. It's clearly a holiday junket for them. What is the study tour we are talking about? And you are saying that we've discussed it umpteen number of times. Fair enough. We've discussed it and we will keep discussing it till there's some concrete action taken by your government in Karnataka.
See,
yes.
When the MLA goes out, it doesn't mean that his entire administration of his constituency will go out. You should understand that there is a district in charge minister, there is a district commissioner, there are IAS, IPS officers. Our MLAs are not irresponsible. So they have gone on study tour for Leh and Ladakh. That's what I meant. I never meant about this Goa trip, holidaying and all. If there are some rain affecting areas, if they are not coming, if they are showing irresponsibility, obviously, the CM will react, and he has said that, he will look into it.
Should you even use the term study tour at a time when their own constituencies are heavily flooded? You're calling it a study tour. What is the timing of these study tours?
See, Akanksha, these were all pre-planned earlier. To give an example, a team of MLA, MLCs from all the parties went to Gujarat. You know what and all they have done there? They visited Amul plant, which has a turnover of 61,000 crores, which is similar to our KMF. So there were a lot of technologies studied there, and the report has been given here. There was a concept of waste management in Gujarat, which has been studied and came here. And there were other issues also in Delhi, which was studied and taken into consideration in the state of Karnataka. So these are all pre-planned. It's not that, these are all the planned post-rainy season and all. You should not link it to that. Once they came to know that their district is floodly affected, they are back, they are in the work, and our government have appointed a village level committee to look into those flood affected areas. It can be South Canara or North Canara, even Madikeri for that matter. Even CM is on full-fledged from past 1 week. You could have seen. He is visiting every district and he himself personally is taking care of the situation.
All right, I'm running short of time. I'm going to give you all now time to just give in your closing thoughts. Aishwarya Mahadev, quick closing thoughts before I move over to Professor Gowda.
Again, I want to reiterate that what has happened today is basically symptomatic of the larger problem where this us versus them divide is growing deeper. We saw this happen in 2013. We saw this happening now, and this is the only agenda they're going to take to the polls. As responsible news channels, I really want you to cross-verify what Mr. Mohan Vishwa said, because these are the sort of lies that flood the ecosystem and create this perception of us versus them. And going forward, any government should be responsible that they treat all their citizens equally, and not when one move comes out that their first statement shamelessly is appeasement politics, though we're in a secular republic. And today, I really hope that, this lesson we all learn, that these sort of communal divides are not going to help anyone. There are no dividends, but the BJP will learn nothing because they're very mired in their own corruption and their ignorance to even help the people. But these are signs of harder times to come for the state, because that is the only BJP agenda that they have, divide and rule.
All right, Professor Gowda, if I could have in your closing thoughts, I would specifically like to ask you, till when will the Dalits and minorities be used as for appeasement politics, also as vote banks?
If you heard the woman closely, she was saying, the woman who threw the money at the former chief minister.
She said she wanted justice.
Look, I don't need the money because in this place, I will never go hungry, because either Muslims or Hindus will surely feed me from hungry. What I want is the police to have protected the property that will now mean 1 year of no livelihood. And we need to listen to that very carefully. She's asking for justice, not a partisan treatment. And if you look at Siddaramaiah's tweet, which I did tweet, he's requested, after talking about his visit, he's requested the BJP government to do a speedy investigation and bring the culprits to book. That's the spirit in which this has to be addressed. You cannot say this party, that party. If something has gone wrong, if the non-partisan issue, we need impartial investigation. And it's really not an occasion for us to be using for political point scoring. It's deeply tragic that the trust in the police system is so low, and it's not just a local event in that sense. Most people, minorities across the state, here, elsewhere, feel that way. And how do we restore that is a huge challenge and something that everyone has to be committed to.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you that this has to be an impartial treatment as far as the parties are concerned. Having said that, that doesn't mean that the Bommai government in Karnataka doesn't have the role to play. They are the ones who will be providing justice to that lady who kept begging for justice. Having said that, many thanks to my panelists, Professor Gowda, Aishwarya Mahadev and Mohan Vishwa for joining this discussion. And with that, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. Up next is Plain Speak with Ridhima.